Good evening. Good evening. We're sorting through a technical issue. In an ironic turn of events, we have a light up here that was supposed to illuminate us for the duration of the talk, and it has gone off. So
we're already failing to keep the lights on.
we have not got the lights on. I mean, how are we? You guys see us well enough? Do we need more lights? JP, no, we're good? Okay, good.
I've got a face for radio, so I kind of like that.
These dark circles don't need any more illumination. So, are you kicking this thing off?
Yeah.
All right, get on in there, baby.
All right. Yeah, so as John says, thank you all very much for coming out. Another shout out to Michelle and Steve and everyone at APA for having us. I'm Clayton Hauck, photographer. This is my studio. See you soon. I share the space with a couple partners, Erica Chadwick, my rep, Thomas Chadwick, her husband, who is also a photographer, and we have another member of the studio, Dave Rentauskis, who couldn't be here tonight. We are actually looking for one more photographer, so if anyone's looking for a studio space, hit me up after the show.
It could be you.
We are obviously primarily a photo studio. However, I love to do all sorts of crazy, weird events, such as this. We do dinners, we do art shows, we do pop-ups. I've got a newsletter. Scan that QR code over there, and you can get the inside scoop on all sorts of fun stuff. One little example.
Multimedia.
One example, this Saturday we're doing a movie screening. It's great watching movies here on the big screen. We got the nice speakers. Call it Cinema 606. Try to do it once a month, and we just have some fun.
What's playing this Saturday?
Perfect. What's it called? Perfect Days.
Oh, that's the
It's a Japanese film.
Yeah.
2003.
Is that Vin Vendors?
I don't know.
I think it's Vin Vendors. Can anyone corroborate? It's definitely Vin Vendors. Okay, let's move on.
All right. So technical difficulties aside, let's get this thing going. A little bit about myself. I feel like I walked into a Jason Little fan club meeting. I don't know if everyone here knows me.
Nobody here knows me.
So I wanted to talk about myself real quick. I do not like talking about myself, so I'm going to read some things. The only reason I'm even bringing these things up is because it's going to tie into things that I talk about later in the presentation. The theme being personal work. You know, doing personal work is super important. So yeah, all right, reading. I began my photo journey in high school shooting video for the news broadcast, and then traveling the country riding roller coasters and documenting those trips and editing them into videos. I graduated from high school, and I was about to go to state school with an undecided major. I didn't know what I wanted to do. My dad said I should take my skills to South Loop, and I went to Columbia College to study film and video.
Damn.
Yeah, so I shot a bunch of short films on the Bullocks, worked at a video store thinking I was going to be the next Tarantino, and then I dropped out of school. I was learning way more assisting and interning at a production company. That production company ended up hiring me full-time, where I was an editor, creative assistant, I ran the website, I did castings, I did like a little bit of everything. It was a great hands-on experience. Then I quit that job to become a freelance nightlife photo blogger. So these photos that you are seeing here are from this era of my life. It was around 2006, and I didn't know it at the time, but I was essentially a full-time personal shooter. Pretty much all the work I was doing was personal stuff. You know, there's some stuff from festivals where maybe I was getting paid $100 here and there. But for the most part, there were self-assignments. It was super free and flexible. I could kind of wander and shoot wherever I want, whatever I thought was interesting. I segue this into a photo blog called everyoneisfamous.com. So I would go up and I would shoot photos, and I would come home and edit them, and the next day I would post them to my blog, everyoneisfamous.com. It gained a little bit of a following a niche following amongst the hipsters of the era.
Me being one of them.
And that's where I met Jason Little at Debonair Social Club.
I was in a band. Can you believe it?
So yeah, I brought a bunch of the photos to an APA portfolio show. I didn't even have a portfolio at the time. Shout out to Steve in the back. So I brought a busted old laptop with some photos on it, and I just by chance I met my rep, Erica Chadwick, who remains my rep to this day. Kind of insane. It's been like 16 years or something. And yeah, so that's kind of my backstory. The cool thing was like all these photos that I was shooting. Well, so I didn't know it at the time, but I was basically out networking amongst my peers who were all like young creatives that ended up eventually getting hired as like creatives at ad agencies and stuff like that. And, I had this giant body of work of like young, attractive, drunk people, and that's pretty much exactly what advertisers wanted.
Mates.
So it worked out well, and it was completely unplanned. But I bring all this up mostly just to like showcase how my personal work at this point in my career really was like the foundation of my commercial photography career, which has taken me all over the world. I've shot for major brands, Nike, HP, Delta, Coors, you name it. And now we're like 15 years later, and I'm sort of segueing my career a little bit and refocusing my career on like personal work as sort of the bedrock core of it. And I'm excited to talk about two specific things in that regard. But before I do that, I'm gonna kick it off over here, Jason.
Hey guys. I was curious if anybody here was coming from set. Anybody coming from a 10-hour day, 12-hour day? There we go. Good on y'all. Anyone coming from a personal work shoot day, anything like that? Was anybody? Okay, we got one. Okay, great job. Keep it up. That's what we're here to talk about today. It's kind of quiet.
Woo! I don't feel like we need my music backing trackers.
Yeah, okay. Jason is learning how to use Canva. I am capable of learning new skills. Okay, so for the 58 people in here who don't know anything about me, my name's Jason Little. I'm local here to Chicago. I grew up in a little town called Lombard. I was a musician for some time. My photo career started at 16 when I was doing weddings while I was in high school. Well, actually, they probably started when I was working at Helix Camera. Anybody here remember Helix? Or just their Lombard outpost. We're going to call this the underexposed period. This is towards the beginning. So just to give you a little preview of what we're going to be seeing here. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody in the back hear? Everybody's good? Okay, great. Usually don't have a problem not being heard. So yeah, this is kind of what we're about to see is roughly 2012 to 2016. My photo career started very early. I was about 16 when I started shooting weddings, and it was on film, Canon Elan 7 with a Mecha Blitz. What was that company with a Z? Anybody remember? Old people in the house? No, fuck it. Mets, there we go. All right, we're moving on. See, it had a Z. So this is Jason in 2009. And if you take a look at the photo credit on the left, there we go. Print the legend, right? Okay, here's another one, Jason in 2012. Making questionable hair choices, if you can believe it or not. When I was working at Helix, my hair was even bigger. And honestly, guys, I would kill to get that hair back, but those days are long in the past. So here we're looking at my editorial work, mostly with Time Out Chicago from 2012 to roughly 2016. This is kind of before I found my voice. I was trying a lot of different stuff. The work is fine. It's just fine. The lighting is fine. The color's a little bit flat. You can see I'm using a lot of the same tricks over and over again here. I can't tell if I like a lot of depth of field or not a lot of depth of field. Jason's kind of all over the shop, and I wasn't thinking much about what I wanted to say. I wasn't thinking much about why I was saying it. I was just kind of really happy to be getting paid somewhere between $25 and $125 a photo shoot from Eater, Red Eye, Time Out Chicago, Chicago Magazine, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But truly, I was very thankful for the work, and it did give me a venue to explore somewhat. But yeah, sometimes I'll show people this work from back then, and they will be surprised that this is a Jason Little original here. So we're here to talk about personal work. Why are we talking about personal work? Because this is where you stop being a hired gun. And this is where you start being the eccentric artist that justifies your social awkwardness. Doing personal work is the arena where you won't have to answer to clients or agencies or directors of this or that, or Gen Z algorithms that determine whether your image is mid or aesthetic. Joke from a Gen Zers out there. There we go. Okay. Everyone over 40 is like, what are you talking about? Get used to it. Yeah, so creative work, personal work, tests, whatever you want to call it. This is your dojo. This is where you make the work that gets you the dream gigs. The work that actually feels like you're showing off your true talents versus just getting a paycheck. So why not get both when you can? The best part, you can go full throttle on you, on your most absurd, your wildly impractical ideas, without anyone reminding you about brand consistency across channels. When you're making personal work, it's all you. You're the boss, you're the creative director, you're the art department, you're the stylist. So you should be taking chances. You should really be trying your hardest to be you. If it fails, so what? No one dies if your epic sandwich build or your fashionista funeral home ideas don't go as planned. I've learned far more from failure than I have from success. So get your ass out there and fail spectacularly. All right, let's rewind. Not quite yet. So this is what my work started to look like after I discovered doing personal work tests projects of my own, where nobody was really. And by the way, this is commercial work. So this is editorial. This is paid work for clients. So this is kind of showing how after I used personal work to help sharpen and discover my own voice, how that translates into paid jobs. So yeah, here we're starting to see a lot more pop, a lot more color, a lot more intentional design, a lot more ideas, a lot more narrative. You start to see everything starts to get really messy. I don't know why, but when I was probably getting around 2013 or 14, I gave someone the note of like, let's just make it messy. Let's get messier. Let's fuck the whole setup. Let's go crazy. Let's destroy the entire thing. Linda, keep it juicy. There we go. Yeah, so once I found, wait, what's up? No, there was no audio. Thank you for checking. There might be at some point though. We didn't do an audio check. Where was I? Ran away. Oh yeah. So once I started doing personal projects, tests, my paid work, my commercial work, my advertising work changed in turn with that. I started getting clients who were seeking me out, going, "Hey, this weird shit where you're dipping chickens in gold. Can you do that for Reynolds tinfoil?" Yes, indeed I can. Okay, so we're gonna wind the clock back a little bit to 2013. I've been working in a catalog studio for about 5 years, doing what I call rinse and repeat, which is every catalog season, you recycle all of the shots that you did last season, but this time with marble surfaces instead of shabby chic surfaces. Some of you out there may have had experience with that before. So yeah, I was working with a lot of the same food stylists, a lot of the same prop stylists. Many of them I still work with to this day. I kind of considered myself a high-priced DJ at that time because I was, getting a day rate and mostly messing around with Spotify more than I was messing around with Capture One. So yeah, somewhere around, I would guess, April of 2013, this British woman named Johanna Lowe, unfortunately she couldn't be here with us tonight, and you're gonna hear me talk about her quite a bit, especially in the early days. She came up to me and she said, "You seem like an artsy guy." You seem like an artsy guy, mate. We. No, yeah. Was that Aussie? Ah, shit, I can't tell the difference. I shouldn't. I'm not an actor. I just act like one. So yeah, she said, you seem like an artsy guy. Would you ever want to do something fun on the weekend that's not this commercial stuff? So this was the very first personal project that I ever did. I think it was quite possibly her idea. I think she said, why don't we do messy ice cream? And I said, great, I'll show up to your studio, I'll set up some lights, get a plexi background, and we'll do messy ice cream images. There was no real strategy outside of that. I think this one in the middle was the first image that we shot, and we were fucking proud of ourselves, dude. We were like, holy shit, we're artists, like we're the pots and pans now. But then we got to the second shot on the left, and both of us were like, well, wait, what do we do now? How do we outdo that last shot that we just did? And I think Johanna said something to me along the lines of, I don't really know what to do right now. I said, why don't you just do like a Jackson Pollock kind of thing? Do that. And yeah, we did that. We shot that. That melted about 10 seconds later. That shot is still in my portfolio. And she turned to me and she said, wow, that was really fun. I had a really fun time doing that. And then this one on the right was something that she had prepared that was sitting in her freezer ready to go. And that was something that probably about 2 years later, an industry professional who was reviewing my career said, I don't understand why you're doing this. This looks like dog shit. Do you want to be a dog shit photographer? Why don't you do more of that catalog stuff? That's what people want to see. I walked out of that meeting and I said, I'm a dog shit photographer. I guess that's what I'm going to do with the rest of my life, to be a dog shit photographer. So, I don't know, I was from Long Island back then, but you know, things change. Yeah, so we're going to move pretty fast here. I'm not going to hang around on the next few slides very long. So this is my next personal test, also with Johanna about a year later. This time our prompt was gold dipped. Johanna had seen some gold paint by Ralph Lauren that I don't think is in production anymore. I have to imagine it's terrible for the environment. But you know, what me and a British lady are doing, probably not the worst things for the world right now. Yeah, so we kind of wanted to do this kind of like morbid Francis Bacon-y kind of thing with meat hooks and fish spines, and I think we had some vague notion about the relationship between food and status, and food as a commodity, and that is what we made. So fast forward to 2017, this is our next collaboration. This was a bit more of Johanna's idea. We wanted to do something that was we focused around these 1950s underwear ads. So it gets a little sexy, and you can start seeing the hard light and pops of color kind of poking in here. So yeah, that was kind of the early days. That was the intro. I'm not even using my iPad here. This is crazy. Yeah, that was what I call the early days. That was when I was just kind of discovering my voice, really starting to play around, really starting to realize that there really are no rules and nobody's actually watching this entire time. Let's see, where can I go to this? Okay, I think I'm freewheeling this part. Okay. So this image actually won the food and drink category at the APA Awards in 2019. Thank you, APA. It was the first time that I'd ever won anything, I think, in my life, other than a case of free Pepsi from Mr. Z's in Walmart. When my family was, very, very young in the 80s. Not my family, the family that I came from. There we go. Here we go, moving on. Okay, so this is all part of the same series, which we called Death by Food. These are all images with real world stories behind them that we did. We had to do research and development. So I think we had dinner probably 5 or 6 times, drinking a lot and eating expensive meals as we do because we make so much money in this industry. So yeah, I think we had probably come up with about 20 different instances of stories where people had died, whether knowingly or unknowingly ingesting food and or drink. And yeah, this was really a turning point for me where I was using gels, I was trying to use layers and really, just trying to tell a big old story with all of the propping and, kind of a bit more of a cinematic feel. So moving on from that project, this is in 2020. And kind of my point here is that I don't know what happened to me. I don't know if I got hit in the head or what, but around 2020, I started really amping up how often I was making personal projects. This is actually late January 2020. I did this project with a food stylist named Catherine Conrad, who resides in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I also met her at the Pampered Chef photo studio, so you never know where you're going to make these kind of lifelong connections. Make sure to be nice to everyone. This is the whole concept here was wasted meals. And I think this is really the first time where I could see the visions in my head. I haven't really quite figured out that you need to sketch those visions to show to other people so they understand what you're doing. So I think when we got to the end of the shoot, Catherine said, I thought we were doing kind of a fun play day. I didn't know that you had actual art direction, man. I was like, well, why did you think I'd bring a wedding cake? Because we're gonna smash the fucking thing. Okay, moving on. Here we go. Okay, so we're probably looking at April of 2020. Can't remember what was going on in April of 2020. This is actually a project that I'm gonna call a personal project, but it was actually prompted by Chicago Magazine.
I feel like your Beetlejuice voice came out last night when we were running through this at the same time. What's the story there?
This is my Beetlejuice series. Hey, we in chat. Say to her, hermano. That was my Beetlejuice. Have y'all ever seen a Beetlejuice before? I also did that joke last night with Rain, so we're good. It's great we did a dress rehearsal. Okay, so here we go. Back to the content. The editor of Chicago Magazine reached out and said, we are asking independent artists, photographers, directors, illustrators to do a photo series to show how they are dealing with the pandemic. So I think we were probably about a month and a half, 2 months in. And I had gotten a lot of just interesting messages from people, mostly over Instagram, but also some friends who I was close with, who told me their personal stories of how they were dealing with the pandemic. Literally, somebody told me that they built a home gym out of empty booze bottles. So that's what that image on the left there is. That's my garage. You can see my old Volvo down there. This one's probably the most personal of those images, which was I was dealing with some insane sleeping issues and also like time dilation. Like, I don't know if anyone else experienced that, where it just seemed like either days were incredibly short or incredibly long. This one on the right was also, someone told me that they were deeply afraid that they were going to get COVID through the mail. So that's that. And then I'm not going to dive too deep into these, but going back a little bit, when I explained to the editor, photo editor of Chicago Magazine what I wanted to do, I said I want to do these vignettes that are based on individual stories from different people of how they're dealing with the pandemic. So I think this one in the middle is my friend in France, left, the poetry of the Pacific Ocean. He sent me a text that simply said, Yesterday I sat out in a sailboat on the lawn while I listened to ocean sounds on my phone. So that was that. And I was just like, Jesus, we are mentally theft right now. This is the enemy. The editor said, I have no idea what you're talking about, man. Like, I don't follow. Like, this just does not sound like a great idea. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to make it just for myself. And when I'm done, I'll bring it back to you. And when I showed him the series of images, he said, oh, now I get it. So this is probably Jason starting to figure out what you have up here doesn't make any sense to anyone else until you show them what you're talking about. So
Would you mind if I jump in with a quick question?
Hell yeah, brother.
At this point in your career, what would you say the percentage of the breakdown between hired work versus personal work?
Oh, at that specific time? Oh, I mean, I would say the personal work was probably like what I make in a year, 10 or 15%.
Oh, that's it, really?
Yeah, so, but they're for me, the most impactful. For sure. So that's
We were
sort of-
getting paid jobs that were in that kind of out there cool style also.
Yeah, look, a little bit. Not so much the like narrative, like spooky shit. So like the stuff that's like kind of like dark and moody. It's pretty rare that a client wants that. That's a little squirrely.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think some clients are just like it's too surreal. But they love the bright stuff. Yeah, like the bright is happy stuff, and that's only 10% adjacent. So the dark stuff is 80% if we're doing percentages here. Okay, let's move forward. We got a lot to get through here. Okay, so this is kind of getting back into 2021. Things are opening up. Maybe we're wearing masks to shoot. Maybe we're not. I'll just kind of run you through what the prompts were because they were pretty simple. This is still before I was getting to art direction. So I was kind of wanting to reach out, work with new teams, different people. I'm sure some of us here are a little cliquey with who we work with, who we hang out with. I urge you very much, get outside your cliques, meet other people, because those cliques aren't always going to be around or available, and you don't want to be too reliant on a particular individual. So yeah, this little project here, the prompt was duotone. So I think at the time I saw people doing a lot of monochromatic stuff. I like to zig where other people zag, so I was like, let's use two colors. We're gonna blow people's minds, man. Yeah, and that was really it. So that was early 2021. Is moving along. The prompt for this one was game night. Game night, everyone. This one, I was a little bit inspired to use a big old fisheye lens to try to get it really distorted and silly. That cupcake guy on the right reminds me of, it was some animated movie with a really big moth character. You guys all remember that? Yeah, of course we do. Okay, we're moving on. Here we go. So this is a project that I really wanted to do that I was calling the Neon Noir series. And it was originally planned to have just been stills. I pitched this idea to Johanna and she was like, yeah, I get what you're talking about, like Brian De Palma, you kind of look at stuff. And if you want to tell me what you want, I'll do it. So it kind of felt like the first thing that I was really kind of art directing, but we mostly went off mood boards. We didn't really, I didn't have any like, sketches or anything like that. So we're gonna move on from that one. So kind of the point that I'm getting to now is you'll see these last two pieces were stop motion. I can't remember if it was this one or the last one, but the day before either of these projects, I had met with a rep in New York, over Zoom, of course, and she said, your work is great, it's fantastic. You have such a great stills portfolio, but you have no motion. We unfortunately are not representing anyone who does not have a full motion reel. So I don't know if it was that one or the one before that, but overnight it became a motion shoot, which was really fun. So here's another concept that I executed with Maria Del Mar. This is actually her idea. We were having lunch one day, and she said, I want to do the breakfast classics. How do we represent that? So we had a lot of back and forth on, are these going to be like in display cases, or how are we going to do this? We were actually supposed to shoot it in 2022, and we didn't because the day that we were shooting the other images in the series, my catalytic converter got stolen, and I was on the phone with insurance companies all day. But we still came back to it a year later, and we persevered and we overcame. And just moving on. The whole point of personal work is that you should really be trying different things. If you find yourself going back to the well, as I like to say, stop. Do different things. If you use the same kind of lighting on the last shoot, stop. If you used the same kind of posing with your model on the last shoot, stop. Fucking do something original. Move on. This was a series that I did last year, again with the help of Maria and Melissa Elias, who's not here. The whole idea was architectural cocktails. Now, as a guy who just said, don't go back to the well and don't do the same shit over and over again, if I could go back and change one thing, I wouldn't have put all these shots in the center of the frame. So even though these are Some of my favorite drink pictures that I've ever made. I kind of wish I didn't. I kind of wish I had a better broad overview, but hey, we made them all in the same day. This is absolutely, actually one of my favorite images that I've ever made doing personal work, and it's almost completely devoid of color. So again, zig, where what you're used to. You know, if you're used to, you know, the giving lots of saturated bright colors, and you know, don't have a lot of people in my portfolio, so made it a point this year to get some models and you know, start showing a little bit more of a human element. The pandemic's over, and we can all start coming back together again. So, and projects don't have to be overly complicated. Projects can be pretty simple. This was actually Beth Summers' idea. She's right over there. She just said pie in the sky. And it's a pie on a server with a fabric background. It was really fairly straightforward, at least for me. I don't know about for Beth. Oops, whoopsie daisy. Hold on. We're almost there, folks. You know, here playing around with like a projector background and stuff. So what I would kind of like to end this segment with is, you know, you can use each personal project as an opportunity to explore something new. You can work with a new team, get out of your comfort zone, and literally and figuratively. And you know, if you always shoot models on a white background, take them outside into the real world. If you always shoot with hard light, try using a big, gigantic, soft light source, maybe even a cloudy day. And you can use each project that you complete as an opportunity to shout it from the mountain, whether that's on social media. I always hear a lot of people go, like, I'm so down with social media, and it takes 5 minutes. Get good at it. That's how you get jobs these days. I'm sorry, folks, you don't have to like it. It's the way it is. Stop telling yourself you're bad at posting. Get good at posting. And if you're really, really not, reach out to people directly. Send some fucking emails. Each project should be a case study for you in what is and what isn't working. Always do a post-mortem, always look back, always go, did I give my stylist enough direction? Did you complete the vision that you set out to complete? If you didn't, what went wrong and where did it go wrong? Did the talent that you had to come to set, did they seem comfortable? Did they seem like they were getting along with everybody? Did they seem like they were getting along and understanding what your direction was? When you said, move your arm like that, did they know what that was? That's something I do, and I'm working on it right now. Did you get shit sleep the night before? That happens to me a lot. What happened? Did you have too many glasses of wine? Did you eat too late? Did you drink too? Well, I already said that. Uh-oh, we're learning about Jason and Clayton here. The experiment doesn't start and stop when the shutter isn't clicking. So I'm gonna turn it over to Clayton now.
Awesome, thank you.
Oh, there's gonna be more later, folks. Yeah.
There was a lot in there, a lot that I can relate to as well. So, when John first emailed me about this, the idea for this night, I was like, I feel like everything I do now is personal work. This industry is kind of going through a hard time. I feel like most of us in this room aren't working as much as we would like to be. Oh, actually, before I get started, I have to get this out of my brain. It's killing me, like the exact metaphor of keeping the lights on failing immediately. I just can't get over it. Does anyone here know how to turn on a pro photo head without actually pushing the button? Is it even possible? No? Okay. It is possible? I'm looking at you, Brian. How do I agree?
What if we want the CCL and anti kill?
Here.
Someone down the stage.
I didn't get up. The guy literally invented digital technology.
Ryan, bill him.
So like I was saying, when John emailed me, I was like, everything I do is personal work these days. That said, I really wanted to challenge myself to not show work that like maybe people know me for, maybe that I'm used to doing. I wanted to show work that is completely kind of outside of my comfort zone, new to me, not familiar. This project here is something that I've been really excited about and spending a lot of time on lately. I call it Keep It 100. It's essentially a super elaborate portrait setup.
So is this audience.
I failed. So it's a super.
That's great.
Going under.
Thank you, man. I shoot everything in here. The background is projected, just like this projector here. I have like 6 to 8 different lighting schemes that I cycle through each frame. After I take a photo, it goes to the next lighting scheme, then it goes to the next, then it goes to the next. The backgrounds are all of my photos as well, so I have a lot of fun kind of finding photos that I could use as backdrops. A lot of photographers in this room. I'm sure I'm not saying anything that you guys don't know, but yeah, I decided to call it Keep It 100 because it was something that now Mayor Brandon Johnson said in a campaign event. He just dropped the line Keep It 100 while I was thinking about this setup, and I was like, that's kind of exactly what the setup is. It's my answer to AI. At the time, those AI portraits were really popular. Everyone was posting their AI avatars on Instagram, and it kind of bothered me. So I took it as a challenge. I'm like, we could do some fun stuff with photography. And the concept is essentially, you get 100 photos in 100 seconds for $100. It's the best deal in town. So, to be fully candid, this idea was completely ripped off from an artist named Jeremy Coward down in Nashville. He's
Completely ripped off.
well, he was posting similar work, and I was inspired by it. But you know, all of my career I've been sort of it felt dirty to like do this setup that he was doing, but I just had to try it.
Well, how similar from where you started with it to where you are now? Do you feel like it's really that similar still?
So, in some ways, yes. Technically, yes. But the cool takeaway, the thing that really attracted me to his work was he was posting these on his Instagram, and I loved the sort of abstract, painterly quality, artistic quality. And I've been finding when I execute it, I kind of get something completely different. I find it's more like human or emotion. And it, you know, it's the same process to an extent, but they feel completely different in a lot of ways, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I don't think you can have a monopoly on like using a sequence strobe setup or a projector
For
as a
sure.
background. So
sure.
I think you gotta let yourself off the hook a little bit.
I know, and I've been working on it. But I have all things in my head like this light not working. So it's just a me thing.
Hey, don't worry about it. We gotta be kind to ourselves. You know, this is one thing when we were kind of doing a dry run through this yesterday I didn't think of. But you're essentially experimenting every frame. So,
Every frame is different.
like there's just no repetition here, and it's like you're basically doing what I'm talking about with like when I do personal work. I get to experiment 3, 4, maybe 5 times a year, but I'm very stuck with what kind of experimentation I want to do, and you're just blowing through like a myriad of experimentations.
I mean, that's really what drew me to this setup. Is I'm traditionally not a studio photographer. I have a studio now, which is amazing that I get to play around and do things like this. But what I love about this concept is it sort of brings an element of chance and randomness and happenstance into a controlled studio environment. And like, you know, I can control it to an extent, but I can really only do so much, and we're just sort of up to the photo guys to do the rest. And I find that really awesome. It's like sometimes I'll be on these shoots and just like the background with the light kind of perfectly syncs up with the expression. And obviously, you know, we can imitate that. We can try to replicate it. But I feel like because it's sort of like there's an element of chance, it just adds like a little bit of depth to it.
Well, it feels like in a way that you're taking the randomness and the happenstanceness of the real world that's out there, that like the early part of your career started with. You're figuring out a way to bring that inside. You're kind of bringing the randomness to you.
Yeah. Because I mean, even the backgrounds, a lot of them are like exteriors, landscapes, flowers, outside stuff.
I nailed it.
You did it. Great work. So when I first set this up, I was so excited about this setup. Like, it was just like, I was flabbergasted by how cool it was that I was getting so far ahead of myself. I thought this was going to be like the next big business idea, and I was going to be renting studios all over the country and opening up these outlets where people could come get like, I don't know, they're like, it's like high-end wedding photo booth. But like I was like, I'm going to customize everything to the person. We'll get the colors, the backgrounds, whatever light they want. And it just seemed like such a brilliant idea. And I just, so
Starbait?
so the great, one of the great things about this, I mean, it's great in a sense, like I've learned so much from doing this. My expectations were sky high. I set it up, I posted on Instagram, I'm like, come get your photo taken for free. I'm just fucking around with this new thing. And it was like crickets, like no one gave a shit. Right. So I learned that it's hard. It's really hard to convince anyone to come to you and give you any amount of dollars to take their photo. It's a challenge. So it's been a challenge that I've sort of enjoyed.
How many narcissists do you think there are in Chicago?
Well,
Big shock, I did it, folks.
Jason has them. You really love the photos too.
I had a great time. They're actually my Instagram and Hinge profile photos, right?
How's that working out?
Ooh.
That's a different kind of personal work, buddy.
So the process of just trying to figure out how it's sort of like me starting all over again as a photographer. Like I have no idea how to get clients anymore. So I've been having to figure all that out. And you learn. If you offer people a deal that's too good to be true, they're gonna start to do it, and then they tell their friends about it, and then you get an emailer going, and you like save emails. And one of the cool things about having a studio is we do events in here, and I'll just kind of like drop it, like, hey, I'm doing this thing, keep it 100 bucks for 100 photos. And it's just sounds like a deal that's too good to be true for a lot of people, and they come and do it. And because, I mean, I'm biased obviously, but I think it's incredible, and a lot of people agree, and it's just sort of kind of naturally snowballed in a way, and has become a bit of like a real business at this point. I mean, I thought it was going to be a huge business, and then I realized it wasn't, but now it kind of is becoming a business.
It's probably better that it's not a gigantic business because you get to keep it this artistic endeavor that feels very emotional and very empathic in a way.
Well, yeah, so
I don't think you'd be able to do if this was like, there was one of these on every corner.
I mean, so you're touching on something that I really wanted to talk about in a room full of photographers. The fact that I'm offering a really in-depth portrait shoot for $100 is just kind of fucking insane. And as a commercial photographer, we have really high standards with like the projects we decide to take on, the budgets, the rates. I feel like these days, the budgets that we're getting are just not possible to do the jobs, and we're finding that we're turning away a lot of work. So it seems sort of counterintuitive for me to be, hey, I'm not gonna do your project for whatever ham company because you don't have enough money, but I'll take your portrait for $100. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. But at the core of this idea, like why I believe so strongly in it is it's like really, it's allowing people to come, like you're lowering the barrier. Like it's a different story if I'm charging $600.
I mean, that's how you sold me, is you said, hey man, for $100, if you get one good photo, you said something like that, and I was just like, hey, it's a good one. Hey, another thing that you didn't touch on is that all the photos in the background are all your, like...
I mentioned that.
You did? Okay, I'm not paying attention.
Yes, they're all my photos. And that's what, so...
Bad friend.
To go back to how I'm not completely ripping off the idea, like, the photographer in Nashville, Jeremy Coward, has built a business around this process. I think he calls it the Portrait Lab. Excuse me. But he uses an LED backdrop now, and he charges more money, and he uses AI to generate backdrops.
Lame.
And I'm not trying to crush standard.
Will you just wait?
But, so, I'm trying to figure out how to make this work. So, I mean, I feel like so much of this industry is perception. Like, wedding photographers, event photographers, people shooting $100 headshots aren't gonna get the call from Nike to shoot their next campaign. It's like, it's just the way it is.
Why can't both be true?
Well, I do think the industry is changing, and companies are sort of hiring wedding photographers and stuff now, because there are a lot of really good photographers doing work on a smaller scale for less money. So they see that as a value. But my problem with it is more so like, I feel like I'm undercutting a lot of people who do this professionally as their full-time job.
Keep it 100s?
No, just like portrait shoots.
8,000 for
Headshots.
Keep It 100 photographers out there?
Headshots. So I'm trying to figure out a balance, and I have a lot of ideas swimming around in my brain of how I can sort of, let me back up a little. Like, I feel like part of why this works for such, and I have raised the price, it's $150 now, so.
Holy shit.
I know. But the way it works is it's a trade-off. Like, they're coming in and getting really cheap photos, but the upside for me is that I could do a whole session in 5 minutes, and they don't have any say about anything. Like, I set the lighting, I do the backgrounds. It's sort of like a paid test shoot is kind of how I look at it. And of course, like, some people are gonna start to ask for specifics, and I just say, no, you gotta build like a real session if you wanna, customize it. This is just one size fits all, come in. But because there's so much variety, like there's gonna be a couple photos that everyone's happy with, which I think is a nice trade-off. Beyond that, I have a time, Danny, you had a photo of Danny in your session.
It's incestuous to
Owner of Scoutfla around the corner. So one of my ideal with a magic wand solution would be charge nothing. Make it a pay what you want, and all the money goes to charity. That's sort of my end dream goal, and it becomes kind of like a fundraiser. Like, this is my side project where I'm raising as much money as I can for charity, and or get creative and work with corporate sponsors to get involved. And so this is my next big thing. I mentioned everyone'sfamous.com earlier. It was my nightlife photo blog. So as of yesterday, I have relaunched everyoneisfamous.com, and it is now where I post portraits.
And Everyone is Famous is kind of what we were seeing earlier at the beginning when you did your intro.
Yeah, I mean, that was the type of work that I was posting on Everyone is Famous. It was like kids drinking and going to nightclubs and music shows.
God, I miss those days.
I know. So now what I do is I do my Keto 100 sessions, and after each session, I'm doing a quick Q&A with whoever wants to participate. And because I'm getting such crazy variety, it's super, like, the first time I put one of these pages together, I was just like, whoa, this is really cool. It's almost like a magazine feature that, like, literally anyone can come in and do. And it's really incredible. And I feel like this is, again, like, part of the trade. Like, yeah, you're not paying me much money, but, like, I hate to use the content word, but I feel like that's kind of part of the trade now. Like, this website is something that's going to become like a payment in a way. Like, people are gonna, everyone loves themselves. I mean, well, most people.
I don't know about that, buddy.
Anyone that participates in this probably loves themselves and is going to share this link with other people. So it's essentially like my new business card in a way.
So what is the hope that somebody visiting here would just go down a rabbit hole of like
learning about it, like just kind of unique individuals from Chicago, like kind of an archive.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I loved about the Everyone's Famous website is I felt like I was documenting a part of history. Well, not a part of history. In hindsight, I was. At the time, I just liked that I was documenting cool things that were going on in Chicago. And this, yeah, it's sort of similar. It's like, everyone has a story. Everyone's got unique, interesting things. And it's also me pushing myself to get better at doing other things like writing and interviewing and video. I don't want to talk about video tonight necessarily, but that's going to be a main focus of this website also, is to do like little mini documentary features on interesting people, artists, photographers, whatever, which will all kind of like be housed on this website. So yeah, that's my, this is my kind of like big project that I'm working on this year, and I'm really excited about it. And if anyone wants to book a $150 headshot,
we could do it.
Scan that QR code, sign up for my newsletter, and
when you scan the QR code, it deducts $150 directly from your account. Beware.
Not true.
It happened to me.
Not well. You got the photos though,
which I like.
So I will give away one portrait shoot too. Anyone who does sign up for the newsletter, I'll give out a free photo shoot because you're giving me content. If you agree to be on the blog, of course. So, yeah.
Hey guys, we're doing the Americana stuff.
Yeah,
A little bit
we're here
later.
right now.
Okay, cool.
So also, I wanted to just chime in. We're kind of running long, but we're gonna leave a little bit of time at the end for questions. So if anyone does have questions,
We start late.
yeah, keep them in mind.
Who's got a babysitter?
I'll take it. I'll come in.
No, I won't. Just trying to stay cool. Okay. All right, y'all. We're going back to me. It's talking about something. I'm not sure what yet, but it's on this iPad, which I wrote a fever dream last night. Let's see. Okay, weird science. Like I said earlier, personal work is your dojo. That's where you do Krav Maga or something like that. I don't really know what that is, but I heard it on a show one time and it seemed like plating stuff. Okay, so let's see. This was some earlier personal images here. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, inspirational stuff. Here we go. As we saw earlier, personal projects are your laboratory, and you're the mad scientist. And you have an unlimited supply of radical ideas. You want to play with a lens filter that makes everything look like a fever dream, as I was in last night when I wrote all this shit? Do it! Thinking about using a fisheye lens just to see how it feels? Become the fish. Haven't storyboarded since college? Lock yourself in a room and get to sketching. The whole point of this exercise, of doing personal work, of doing tests, of doing projects, I lost my place. I'm not reading from a script, I swear. The whole point of this exercise is that you are free to break every rule that you didn't even realize you were following. Throw caution to the wind, mix those chemicals that may or may not explode, and see what happens. The fact of the matter is that no one is going to do it for you. You get one career, one life, one shot. Make it count. Get out there and make some fucking work, guys. Sorry for my foul mouth, but that's just who I am. I didn't come here to not be me. All right, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to run you through some experiments that I've done with personal projects in the last few years. It may not be all correct for you, but it has worked for me as much as you could consider it being moderately successful at 40 working. Here we go. Okay, single player mode. I hear a lot of people say they don't make personal work or do test projects because they can't find stylists to work with, or they don't have models, or they don't have a food stylist, or whatever your excuse might be. Go ahead and do it yourself. So this is the first image that I made, at least in my style. This was back in 2016, and I really can't remember what was going on in 2016 that may have prompted me to feel like that. I showed it to a friend at the time, and they said, did you get an option without the flag? I kind of don't feel like it would be very relevant 9 years later without the flag. Okay, so we're just, this probably took me 4 or 5 hours to do. So yeah, there's no excuse. If you don't have a model or a stylist, go ahead and make some work. Here's some other images I did by myself. The one on the left was a project pitch for a book that never came to be. The one in the middle is just a dumb pun. Can anybody guess what it is? There we go, Johnny J in the back, rocking and rolling. And then this one on the right was, I just wanted to drink a bottle of Saint Germain and feel justified about it. And then, if you don't have a model, I will tell you these were both made during the pandemic. I'm not that self-obsessed, although I may seem like I am. Are these the best images in my portfolio? They certainly are not. But this one on the left, I posted on Instagram, and people were like, damn, Jason, that's so fucking emotional. I can tell you get hurt. And I was like, whatever, guys. Let's see, I have feelings, I swear. Okay, but you may ask yourself, Jason, how do I turn these images into profit opportunities? So on a good month, I get maybe somewhere between 3 and 6. Oh, wow. Profit opportunities. Hey, Johnny, can I get a Jolie?
Oh, what now?
A beer?
One of those tall boys?
Yes, sir.
One of them. Mars, sponsor of the event tonight, Brewskis.
Shout out Mars.
Shout out to Mars, where I used to be a karaoke host. Can you believe it?
I can.
Yes, sometimes I'm even tired of myself. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. Much appreciated. Okay, how do I turn these images into a proper opportunity? Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Yeah, so on a good month, I probably get somewhere between 4 and 6 requests for bids, which is, if you're not super familiar with how advertising agencies work, when they want to bid out a project, they usually approach, for brevity, we'll just say 3 teams, 3 photographers, 3 directors, 3 whoever's, and each one of those teams provides a bid based on creative that the client will show you to give you a sense of what the project looks like. Hey, man. So oftentimes, you'll go through your whole portfolio and you'll go, shit, I don't have anything that looks exactly like what the client is asking for. Maybe I have the lighting, maybe I have the styling, but I don't have an image that looks kind of like whatever this packaging work or this social media work or this advertising work looks like. So when that happens for me, I say, when is the bid due? And if the bid is due in anywhere from like 3 to 5 days and I don't have that image, I try to make something that looks remotely similar. I wouldn't necessarily recommend making something that looks exactly like what they're looking for because they'll be very confused. And we know how literal and silly people can be. So these few images here, this one, these 2, and this one here were all images I made all by my lonesome for project pitches for bids that went in against other teams. And out of these, can you open it for a second? Thanks, Val. Out of these 4, can anyone take a guess as if to only one of these 4 won a job? Can anyone guess which one it was?
Cheesecake.
Popcorn.
Which one? Somebody say it, Lina.
Popcorn.
Cheesecake.
We're getting cheesecake. Holy shit, I'm surprised. It was the cheesecake, which I do. It's actually a feline pie, guys. Well, never mind. Which, in my opinion, is the weakest of these couple of images here. So you never know which one is actually gonna land the job. So I say, if you have the time and you can do it, go ahead and make the imagery that's gonna help you with these jobs. So, all right, we're gonna move on. Experiment number 2. Become the art director. If you have not art directed a shoot before, but you have worked with art directors, meaning they are giving you the direction of what these images that you're making, or these videos that you're making, or these GIFs that you're making should look like, you're used to be given a deck that says, this is exactly what you should be shooting. That makes it kind of paint by numbers for us. And is it my beer? Parched. Dehydrated. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. Okay, so let's see. I should probably refer to my notes. Okay, here we go. Okay. So early on in my creative career, I was kind of like, let's wing it. Turns out that doesn't always translate. People don't always understand what you mean when you say it should look like pie in the sky. What does that mean? I don't know. You have to show everybody. So I think this was one of the very first times that I actually came up with art direction. And it was mostly because I was looking for talent from local talent agencies. I was reaching out to Stewart Talent. And I said, I want to do this D.B. Cooper shoot. Shout out to everyone who knows who D.B. Cooper is. If you don't, watch documentaries on Netflix. They're insane. And they were like, we don't know what the fuck you're talking about, man. So I came up with this, and I sent that back to them, and they're like, oh, man, cool idea. I'm looking at this right now, and I still don't know what it means. So that turned out to be this, which we shot a couple days later. We got this guy, slightly resembles D.B. Cooper. Originally supposed to be a still image. We turned it into a video. Anytime, anywhere. Who is that? I don't know. Like I said, if you don't get a model, use yourself. Okay, so that's just the point being here, folks, is if you are in a position where you are leading a crew, or even if you're not, even if you are part of the crew, feel free to put your ideas down on paper and share it with those who you are working with. There's no way everyone you're working with is going to understand you too much. There's no way you're going to walk into a project and everyone's going to say, you know what, I agree with you too fucking hard. Get as much down on paper before your project as possible. So experiment 3. Ooh, damn, trigger warning. The two-letter word. Does anybody know what two-letter word I'm talking about?
No?
What are we all concerned about? What's coming? What's the future? Uh-oh, we heard it. AI. Oh, whatever. It's an anagram. I'm a fucking photographer. I'm not an ethicist. All right, let's move forward here. Shh. Hush. Okay. So, if you know the answer to this, if you already know the answer to this, don't answer this. If this is the first time you're seeing these images, can anyone here tell me what program you think these were made with? What program? Anybody? Any thoughts? Any guesses? Don't be afraid. Midjourney. I'm hearing a lot of people saying Midjourney. No! These images were made right up here. These are actual photos. This is a project I did with Johanna Lowe in 2023, and we were both a little concerned about artificial intelligence, which I think is a misnomer because it's not a sentient consciousness, it's generative imagery, which I think is a more accurate descriptor. So these are images made by the human mind, and my point being, before I lose everybody in the next 30 seconds here, is that ideas start here. Ideas have always started here. What we see with generative anything, generative writing, generative imagery, generative video, it all started with human ingenuity and creativity. So I'm gonna show you how I've rolled generative production into my shoots. So this is a shoot I did with Ray Del Mar and Melissa Elias back in, let's see, I didn't put a year on this one. Whoops. Somebody was making this presentation 4 hours ago. I think this is 2022. Yeah, we had a concept. It was space drive-through. If it's not completely obvious, that's ET right there, folks. That is an actual ET glove, and I'm the one wearing it. Again, use yourself if you shoot people. And that's Melissa being the space server person. So these were our concept renders that were done, I think, in DALL-E back in the day. You know, you can see they're pretty crude and pretty silly, but they just get the idea across. I think what we made as human beings is far superior. I went too far. Here we go, we're gonna go back one. This was from the same shoot. We made these images in the exact same day. This silly ass prompt started as submarine sandwich. So my concept renders, I had this notion that it was gonna be a sub sandwich with little Cornichon sharks floating around down there. And I had originally wanted destroyers above the surface, almost like, you know, like they're hunting. And Maria said, I think on our Zoom call, you were like, why the fuck do we need that? And I was like, I don't know, it's cool. And you were like, no, it's dumb. And I was like, shit, okay, well, if she thinks it's dumb, I guess everyone else is probably gonna think it's dumb. So the point being is listen to your collaborators. Even if you're a bullheaded person like me who doesn't, who thinks your first idea is the best idea, sometimes it's not. So he ended up with this image on the right, which is mostly in camera. The only thing that's really photoshopped out is we had a plexi kind of plank that the sandwich was sitting on top of. Otherwise, everything is done in camera there, so that was really fun. And I think Maria's food styling is the most unreal thing about it. It's just absolutely incredible. I can't believe that was something to read. We captured in frame there, so let's see.
Down for the ships now.
No, we're
I
done.
want more shit.
When a project's done, we move on from it. We don't go back, folks. Okay, let's see. Oh, here, we're moving on. Okay, cool. Hey, friends. I know that navigate. So if you guys saw my ad here, we're not going to listen to me talk because we're doing too much of that already. But my point being is, generative programs are here to stay. The toothpaste is out of the tube. I think as creators, again, you don't have to agree with me here. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to harness this tool, and that's really all that it is. It's not here to replace us. I completely understand the fears that it's going to disrupt our industries, that it's going to replace certain jobs. The real joy is in creating. The real joy is in making things. Oh, here we go. Exactly. So we're going to reverse it a little bit here. Everyone's kind of used to seeing people on Instagram or TikTok going, what would it look like if the cast of Star Wars was in a 70s college fraternity movie, which has little to no value. Now, we're reversing it here a little bit in that this concept, which is one of my favorite photos that I've ever made in my entire life, started with a hand-drawn sketch from Maria. We'll come back to this a little bit more just a little bit later. But it started with a human hand-drawn sketch. Came from here to paper. It became a still image, and without really planning much about what I wanted to do with generative motion, was able to pull out this really fun motion piece that I got a kick out of making. I think for 22 seconds of motion, probably took about 6 hours of like prompting, editing, tricking, rewriting. So this AI shit ain't as convenient as everybody likes to believe that it is. And here we are, almost to the end, folks. Don't worry. Not the end, but the end of this segment. There's 6 more. No. Okay, experiment 4, and this is a very human one here. I call this one lose control, which is give control over to someone else. So we're going to backtrack just a little bit here. Maria Del Mar, this is her concept, which I think we were doing that space drive-through shoot with the weird gloves and stuff, and I should have included the photo where you were holding that silver glove with the sandwich. So about a year before we executed this, she said, I want to do foot foods. And I was like, uh-huh. And I'm like, oh shit, now I know what it's like when I say, I want to do submarine sandwich. And people are like, uh-huh. Get it down on paper, folks. That's the point. There's themes here. So Maria eventually, about a year later, sent back these sketches to myself and Melissa, which we were like, yeah, these are cool. These are very like 50s, 60s mod, interesting notions about, I don't know, Priya, what would you say? What's the concept here? In two words. Pantyhose. There we go. Okay, so these are concepts. This is the execution. For me, I'm usually driving the creative. I'm usually pretty well aware of where the ideas came from and what they're supposed to mean. This is one of the first times that someone else that I work with a lot and that I trust very much creatively had an idea, and I fully believed in it. And I said, cool. We had some discussions over mood boards, and most of them were like 60s, maybe early 70s, very like mod, very probably like London-y kind of imagery. For me, I was like, oh, so my little hard light shtick ain't gonna work here, so we need to do something that's very reminiscent of what you might have found in that era of this 1960s kind of mod feel. And let me see if I feel like I wrote it a very eloquent way here.
yeah, directing acrobats. Also not something that I do on a daily basis, so that was a totally new thing for me as well. And we certainly collaborated on how to do that. Yeah, and had we not done the project with the space drive-through a year earlier, then we would not have ended up making the series, which for me is sincerely one of my favorite projects that I've ever done. I got to work with a lot of really cool people and have a lot of fun while I made it. So I guess the point here is that when you do these personal projects, work begets more work. So get out there and make that work. So I'm gonna hand it back over to you, my man.
Thanks. Real quick, so what are you using? Yeah. Give it up for Jason.
Thank you.
I love these backgrounds, super bold, critical. Are those practical or is it those?
Yes, it's seamless, and they're retouched a little bit to take out the grain.
Cool.
Like in the drink one there, you can see a little bit of where the curve happens. But yeah, it's helped a little bit. But yeah, it's just superior seamless, homegrown Chicago superior seamless, baby.
Nice, nice. All right,
So
so
logo.
I promise I will leave this last section brief. I woke up this morning and I had this funny thought that Jason, I'm a perfect contrast for Jason. I feel like you're prime of your career, streamlining, using AI, finding all these shortcuts for personal work, and I'm like the like a midlife crisis guy who's like trying to find a new path.
Oh, I'm a midlife crisis guy. Don't get me wrong.
So in the theme of really challenging myself to share things that are not sort of in my comfort zone, let me actually set this up. So last year, January 1st, I started a blog that I kind of didn't really tell many people about. It's called pointingatstuff.com. The origin story for this blog was I read a book about Richard Avedon where he talked about taking photos of things was like pointing at things. And I thought that was kind of hilarious and brilliant. So I yoinked that. I guess that's what I'm doing now is I'm stealing ideas from other artists. So actually, let me find, I think I could find the origin story.
It's inspiration, Clayton.
So there was a quote, someone wrote Richard Avedon for advice, and he said this, which I also thought was brilliant. The only advice I have for you is that if you do something connected to photography every day of your life, do something connected to photography every day of your life, and you'll be surprised what happens. So that sort of inspired me. I've been wanting to do a daily photo blog for like a decade, and I haven't done it. Kind of like why I was excited to talk about personal work, because I feel like the last decade of my pro career, I've really fallen into personal work. I got too comfortable, I got lazy, I kind of was just riding through on like paid jobs, and like when I wasn't working, I would take photos with my iPhone, and that was really it. And it sort of dawned on me that I needed to stop doing that. So about 3 years ago, I bought this Ricoh Pocket Cam, I call it, which I carry with me every day at all times. I'm constantly taking photos on this thing. It's super beat up. The sensor is caked in dust. I have to shoot everything at f2.8 or I can actually show you what it looks like because it's pretty funny. But I needed a place to put all these photos. So I started this blog and didn't really want to like make this a big thing that is going to gain me notoriety or attention. It was really strictly a personal place. The reason I do it publicly is because that's just kind of how my brain works, and I need to be held accountable. Oh, here's the sensor. There's just dust on the sensor, and you can't get in there to clean it either without like physically taking nothing apart. So
I call that a beautiful mistake.
I call it. It's kind of like I like it. It's like a filter. It's texture, right? So the main reason for starting this blog actually was to get better at writing. If you click any of these photos, some are lower than others, but every day I write something. Like this one is kind of like the talk I just gave. It was sort of me getting my thoughts in order about doing this Keep It 100 setup.
That's one day of writing?
Well, yeah.
Holy shit.
So
You find the time.
I'm not working as much as I would like to be, I guess. So I feel strongly, like I've always wanted to be a good writer, and I've never dedicated any time to trying to be a good writer. So this was sort of me wanting to learn. And one quick story that sort of like, I feel like showcases the importance. Well, actually two thoughts, and while I give these thoughts, I'm going to bring up the work that I challenged myself to share. Like this is work that I've shot over the last year and a half. that I haven't really shown anyone, and I kind of don't even look at it myself. I go out and shoot, and it sits on a hard drive, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what the end goal is, really. I call it ill wandering. The idea was that I would challenge myself to get out of Chicago. I've lived all of my life in Cook County. There's a great big state out there with a lot of cornfields in it. And I think I've documented it and challenged myself to find new places and take interesting photos of things. And I have no idea where I'm going, but I just wander around and take photos kind of on a whim. And it's freeing, it's great. It's not like me working on a commercial job with the art director screaming down my back, telling me to take a specific photo with specific lighting. I could do really whatever I want and experiment and play. And I'm doing video as well, so it's really kind of training my brain to think. I mean, my background, my start was in video, so it's not that I don't have experience with video, but I feel strongly that it's like really a separate mental state to shoot stills and video, so I'm really trying to be better about shooting video. And I guess the quick story I was going to say about writing, we got a big bid in last year for a project, and if you've ever run on these calls, you can tell when you're not the favorite for a job. This one was clearly obvious. Like the main person wasn't even on the call. The whole call they were talking about how they loved the photos from the previous assignment, and all of the examples were those photos. So I thought like, there's no chance I'm going to get this job, but if I write a really good treatment, maybe there were a chance. And I feel like this year, just dedicating my time to, not all of my time, but a big chunk of my time to learning to write better, I just kind of nailed the treatment. And it went from being, I think, probably having no child getting the job to being the favorite to get the job. And of course, just the way the industry works these days, the project just dissolved and didn't even happen, so we didn't end up getting it.
Shit.
That's the best example I can give you today of how writing, I feel like, is super important.
We got Ernest Hemingway over here. And then people are like, uh-oh, the election didn't go the way we wanted. We're going to cancel that project.
I wouldn't quite say Ernest Hemingway, but my parents like it, you know? So that's all.
Isn't that all we want? Like,
Basically, yes. And another thing, a takeaway that I have from writing is that I feel like we all have brilliant thoughts in our heads at all times. I get mine in the shower a lot, or when I'm waking up, or when I'm dreaming. I have amazing ideas for movies. And then I wake up and you find when you start kind of put pen to paper and write those thoughts down, they're not as good as you thought they were. So at least this is sort of my experience, is like writing kind of forces you to put your thoughts in order, and you end up starting to kind of think about things better as well. So that's why I'm kind of like a super strong advocate for spending time to learn to write.
Yeah,
it's not sitting on ChatGPT.
it's a very human thing to do, to take what's up here and put it out there.
For sure. So yeah, the Illinois project, Ill Wandering. Maybe this will be a book. Maybe I'll make another blog. It's kind of what I'm doing these days, is just making websites. And,
I think that's called entrepreneurship.
well, they gotta make money to be considered entrepreneurship.
Hey, how many endeavors have we both done that didn't make any money?
So another thing that I promise we'll wrap up soon. I thought this would be a nice way to end it, to put Jason to sleep as well. So one of the things I like about this project is it's been fucking hard. Like rural Illinois, there's a whole lot of nothing out there. And then there's towns that just don't have people in them. So I'll encounter what I think is a really cool scene, and I'm like, this needs a person. Sort of a through line from that Pointing at Stuff blog that I was telling you about. Speaking of parents, my parents actually called me out. They're like, why are you posting all these photos of broken cars and bare trees? Like, no one wants to see that stuff. They want to see pictures of people. And they're not wrong. Like, I know that. But the reason I did the blog wasn't, again, to make masterpieces. It was really to kind of like retrain my eye and my mind and my focus, and just kind of get in the routine and the repetition of like doing this and seeing things a little bit differently.
But it does seem like you are searching for the people.
So, well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, the first few times I went out, I came home and all of my photos were just like wide landscape shots that I thought were great because I hadn't seen a cornfield my whole life. But after you see a couple cornfields, it starts to look really boring.
They all look the same.
Yeah. So, as I'm going out more, I think I've gone out like 5 or 6 times now. as I go on more, I'm really pushing myself to like make the photos more interesting, more me, more human emotion. So the last time I went out, I would kind of stumble upon a scene I really liked, and wait around, wait 5 minutes. If no one shows up, I would literally go find a person, try to find a person. It doesn't always work. Bring the person to where I wanted to take a photo.
Hey, follow me back to a second location.
Exactly. So it's like my commercial photographer instincts are kind of like out in the wild, and I'm trying to combine these two.
It is fucking crazy how when you do have a camera, you can just say like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing, will you help me? And people are like, yeah, sure, whatever.
I mean, that's sort of what I'm tapping into in my Keep It 100 Everyone is Famous website. Is people like getting their photos taken. They like seeing themselves. So I find a lot of people are really open to it. And I haven't put a whole lot of time into this approach, but it's kind of another thing that I'm really excited to further explore as the years turn into decades and they actually die.
Like time through the hourglass, soaring the days of our lives.
But
Where's my soap heads out there?
I feel like I can leave it at that. I will say, generally speaking, though, sort of the theme that's going on, at least in my life right now, is that I'm finding myself. There was a long stretch of time where I was hard pressed to even consider myself an artist. I feel like people throw that word around very easily.
Oh man, you've been an artist from the fucking beginning, man.
I mean, this is my thought.
I get it.
But it's like you spend a lot of time on these commercial sets where you're kind of just like executing someone else's vision, and you sort of like start to feel down on yourself. Like I wasn't doing the personal work, So now that I'm back out doing my personal work, I can consider myself an artist again and feel good about saying it, not like I'm faking it. So that's sort of kind of like, I feel like my switch. I mean, like, I don't want to get into the weeds on like the dark times in our industry, but like, things are hard right now. So it's sort of like one of my maybe defense mechanisms, I think. Like, if I can kind of make myself less of a gun for hire and more of an artist, at least maybe I'll have a better shot of making it the next decade in this crazy business we're in of pushing buttons.
Well, I mean, one thing I'm seeing from where you started with like the Everyone is Famous stuff to kind of what you're doing and the endeavor that you're starting now with wanting to take this project a bit more out to the other people. Did you talk about bringing the Keep It 100?
I didn't.
On the road.
So actually, now you can bring that up. I think this is a great idea. So this is again
Great co-host.
Thank you. Why I've been loving doing the personal work is you kind of just like your brain naturally thinks of new ideas and you connect the dots. So the last time I was out wandering Illinois, I randomly stumbled on a friend who now lives in Central Illinois, and I had no idea he lived there. He's been there 2 years. He's from.
It's a big leader.
That's in Atlanta, Illinois, rough Route 66. This is turning into like vacation slideshow now, I figure. Illinois is a beautiful state. So I was out in rural, like an hour north of Springfield, right? And I'm in this town. I meet my buddy for lunch. He's the dude that started Leatherby Gin. He's like a big deal to me, at least. I love Leatherby Gin. And he moved back home. Like, it's cheaper out there. He's like a little more laid back lifestyle. He's got a bunch of family out there. We sit down for lunch. I meet the mayor within like 2 minutes. It's like, what's going on? And I mean, he tours me around town, and I'm like, I feel like within 2 hours I met everyone in town. And
All
he's like,
7,500 people?
yeah, 26. 2,600. So he's like, here's the town square, there's an art gallery over there. I promise we're about to wrap it up. But the idea that I have, which I think is great, and it's sort of on my top of my to-do list this year, is to take my portrait setup that I do here and bring it on the road to small town America and spend a week in this town. So I spent 2 days wandering town, taking photos of my pocket cam that I'll use as backdrops in the portrait section. And then meet the town folk. Tell them, hey, I'm doing free photos on Wednesday and Thursday. Come on down to so-and-so location. You gotta figure that out. And then do the setup, and then do the little interview with each person. And then I'll bring my printer down and come on back on Saturday. We'll do a little art gallery show. And all the photos that we take around town, you can come check them out and take your photo home with you. And I think that's like a fucking brilliant idea. The only reason I thought of it, but don't find I gotta do it first. But the only reason I thought of it is because I'm doing all this personal stuff and putting myself out there into the world where these kind of like things just kind of organically happen, and I love it.
But it seems like the full circle moment is the stuff early in your career that everyone is famous stuff. It's so people focused. It's so focused on expression. Really, it's so focused on people, and it feels like you're kind of coming back to that to like really just like human stories. You know?
Yeah. I mean, but you got to do the work to realize that. This was an example where I saw a thing down the road that I really wanted to take a photo of, but I didn't have people. So I saw these people and I just convinced them to come take a photo with me here. So that was a totally set up photo that kind of looks natural.
You don't have to tell us that.
But anyway, I am going to leave it at that. If anyone has any questions for either of us, now is the time. Or
Wait, hang on a second. I'm not done.
oh, you're not.
Yeah, I got a whole fucking wrap up situation
God.
here. We're at 8:45 right now. We started at 7:15. This was supposed to be an hour and a half, so I'm gonna go 3 minutes over, but it won't be that long, I promise. Okay, here we go. Stitch. What goes? Okay, moving on to the next one. A band of outsiders. Here we go back to the beginning. So in the creative world, your network is your oxygen supply. You can go to all the industry events and schmooze over free Charles Shaw. Or you can just make cool stuff with cool people. Making personal work, this is how you meet the folks who will either, there we go. Be familiar.
Hey, it's me.
Familiar sound of a flamethrower. This is how you will meet the folks who will either become your closest collaborators or, at the very least, the people who recommend you when they're double booked. Stay busy, folks. And if you didn't go to the right school or don't already have a built-in creative network like me, I'm a college dropout. I think you're also a college dropout. Well, a couple of college dropouts up here, folks. Let's hear it from my other college dropouts. Woo woo. Woo woo. Okay, there's
Study folks in here.
Here we go. Oops, I didn't know we were in a Yale
Hostile territory.
meeting here. Let's see, if you don't go to the right school and don't already have a built-in creative network, this is how you build one from scratch. Just reaching out to folks and saying, hey, I like what you do. Let's make some work together. You're literally at a networking event this very moment. Seize the opportunity and meet at least one new person tonight. If you came with your clique, ditch them for 10 minutes and meet somebody new. Some of my best connections started with us burning entire Saturdays, shooting things just because we wanted to. The creative world is full of talented misfits, and if you're lucky, some of them will become your 10-hour-a-day set family, the ones you actually like, the ones you actually get paid to hang out with. So go out, make some shit, be weird, find your people. I can honestly say some of my favorite people in the entire world are in this room right now, and I get to work with them all the time, and I love it. I promised myself I wouldn't cry, I didn't, so I feel amazing for doing that. Just want to say thanks to all of you, each and every individual one of you, for coming out tonight. I also want to say, we want to say thank you to all the wonderful people who help us make the work that you saw here today. And want to give a shout out to APA who made this event possible. Also want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Pro Gear Chicago. If you don't know where to rent your next C-stand, that's where you do it. And then Mars Brewing, if you don't know where to get drunk, that's where you're gonna do it. And special shout out to John Jennings and Michelle's. Holy shit, for some reason I didn't put your name in my deck here. So thanks, Michelle. What is it?
Good thing you remembered.
Okay, he doesn't either. Sorry, we're burning, we're dying here, folks. So that's the end of the talk, and we're gonna hang around, I think, for the next hour. What you got the?
Yeah, there's no time limit. You guys are free to hang. We have a ton of beer left. Let's drink that beer. We got some. Thank you very much. Yes, if anyone has questions, feel free to go.
Q&A. We're doing a Q&A. If anybody wants to get a refreshment or take a small break real quick, this is probably a great time. I'll just sit up here and I'll do some jokes for you guys because I'm a jester and
So, does anyone know why dubstep tail fillers is to protect their butt wax? No, you didn't. You definitely. I told you that.
Take me.
Just as a reminder, we'll be doing a Q&A if anyone has any cues in just a moment.